Is that one thing has stayed consistent is we kind of feel like Steve may want to go for the Maokai more than anything, and the fact that Ryze has now been banned is a big indicator of that as well, because that's now a lane bully against Maokai off the cards.
And of course, Steve played against Huni, who won with Ryze yesterday, and Vizicsacsi won with Ryze yesterday in even more convincing fashion. Hylissang will not have access to the sniping Morgana and those dark bindings that he's consistently had an impact for. Alistair's off the table, Azir's off the table, one ban left.
The Morgana ban is a key ban here for ROCCAT. It's a champion that Hylissang has had so much presence on, and he doesn't get punished on Morgana. When he plays Thresh, yes, he can catch just as much, but he has to play a lot more forward in the team fights, and Hylissang's a very cocky player as well, in-game. Outside of it, very unassuming and very quiet, but I am glad to see that ROCCAT have banned out this Morgana, and going alongside it, the Kalista now removes so much lane presence from the Unicorns of Love duo bot lane. What is available? All of the junglers are still up, and I feel like Kikis isn't going to rush to pick his jungle pick here. So is Cassiopeia here, and with Azir off the cards, we may see PowerOfEvil lock that.
Well, it was a first pick yesterday, if memory serves correctly. Cassio for Unicorns of Love. They feel Gragas is slightly more important, and Kikis is going to get his hands onto the Barrel Master. He had some great knockbacks yesterday as well against Copenhagen Wolves, following on the death sentences from Hylissang. So ROCCAT, they get two picks of their choice. What will it be and why?
That is the question. Maokai available, I would not be surprised to see perhaps even Maokai Urgot come out here. If ROCCAT want to play very similar to how they did yesterday. But honestly, the reason I think that PowerOfEvil hasn't picked his champion yet, when you look at it, the mid lane bans have not come out so much in this game. You don't have the Varus ban, you don't have the Kog'Maw, so there's a lot of options available for him. Funnily enough, yesterday Unicorns first picked the Cassiopeias. This is a big change up for them now that a lot more is open.
We'll see what they decide to lock in. Yamato Cannon sporting a tasty bow tie on stage, helping out his team. They're going to take away the Thresh from Hylissang. Hylissang has always been a support with a small champion pool, and the Maokai that you predicted as well.
And there's only a handful remaining. We know that he has played Annie in previous weeks as his champion, but now that most of his options are off the board, I wonder what he's going to default to. Has he been learning anything new? Because typically, the Hylissang that I know from the last year and a half of being able to cast him through Challenger, the remaining champion would be Leona at this point, and that is not something that is currently in the meta. So Hylissang needs to maybe show us something different or go for the Annie, and they're going to hide it for now because they have picked up their damage dealers right now. Sivir and Kog'Maw, we know that Unicorns want the Kog'Maw completely. Every single game they want this, and now they've got Sivir along with Gragas. They can get the engage tools rolling very early on and get themselves into a fight.
Well, level 11. That's what we're looking for from Unicorns of Love. PowerOfEvil will have his Kog'Maw for the third time in the summer split, and it's something that he's spoken about an exceptional amount in every interview. So ROCCAT know what they're facing, they know what they're against. They've got the ability to get onto a target with Maokai, Thresh to pull them out. If Jankos goes for Rek'Sai, there's some more early game. You have to wonder, how do they round up the mid lane? What does Nukeduck run into PowerOfEvil's Kog?
That's a good question. And honestly, with Lulu banned, I'm kind of struggling to see what Nukeduck's going to pick up. But the Zed we just saw not work out in SK versus Giants. So what are his options?
Well, we've seen Nukeduck running Cassiopeia. Azir has been banned. Yesterday, of course, he tried Irelia into Azir. So we'll see how that plays out. We did see the Lucian picked up, a couple of AD carries flirting with it here in Europe.
And it's one thing that I kind of spoke to Crepo about earlier this week is the triangle of AD carries when it comes to Kalista, Urgot, and Sivir. The fact that Kalista is banned away, Sivir's worth skyrockets, and that is something a little bit different out of the Unicorns of Love. I guess that's going to be a top lane Nocturne in the sense that we saw the Gragas top lane yesterday and it didn't work out for other teams. And this actually plays fairly similarly to the top lane Rek'Sai that we've been seeing over in LCK, over in LPL. You have a global presence, you have teleporters, it is. That's my expectation here, but Unicorns of Love are never one to lay all their cards out quite so early.
Well, we'll find out which lane it ends up in, but something that we forgot, a glaring omission.
Yeah.
LeBlanc has made it all the way through with so much focus on the other top-tier meta picks, I think. We've both forgotten a little bit about the LeBlanc. I feel like it's going to get locked in. It is locked in. Nukeduck is on a staple. Unicorns have pulled out what we expect to be a top lane smite, teleport, Nocturne. And I have it in my head, it was run in LPL. Just have to double check that one. We'll in a little bit, but interesting team comps from both of these teams.
Yeah, it's a Unicorns of Love game. There was going to be something that was a little bit different. They've been playing standard for, or their kind of standard for enough games now. They want to throw us something that's a little bit different here. And I think when you look at the lane counterparts, Steve is just on something very comfortable, and that's the same story all the way down the board for ROCCAT, apart from perhaps Woolite on this Lucian. But the one thing for certain from ROCCAT is they're going to be very good at dragging the Unicorns into skirmishes. You look at Maokai, Rek'Sai, Thresh, they want to catch people out, and the Unicorns have to be careful because they aren't so easily escapable themselves. When you look at a Kog'Maw, if he gets locked down early, if Nocturne gets locked down with no flash, there's a lot of tricky kind of fights that Unicorns are going to have to avoid.
Definitely the case, but I think the vision denial from that paranoia is going to be so important against the Maokai, against the Thresh, against the LeBlanc, if used appropriately.
Right.
We'll have to see. You guys at home need to jump onto Twitter and tell us who is going to pick up the win at LOL Esports. Will Nocturne top in Vizicsacsi's hands grab the win? Hashtag UOL win or hashtag ROC win. Can ROCCAT pick themselves up a win? They're 1-2 on the split against the 2-1. And I like to see Woolite on a champion with an escape. We'll see how his Lucian performs.
So my assumption on this Nocturne top is that Chachi is going to build towards split pushing, I would assume, and then teleport in, and then ult in and teleport out if he can actually get into range. So it's not something I've seen all that much of, but as I said, I imagine plays very similar to the Rek'Sai top lane that we have seen in other regions. But this is Chachi, so there's always a lot of options for him. This time he might just end up building tank and just go into team fights. But certainly the Unicorns are not going to make this game easy for ROCCAT with this setup. But one thing I think it actually does indicate is there's a very clear, again, a level 11, just because that's when Nocturne gets the added range on his ultimate. So Paranoia plus the ultimate of Kog'Maw at level 11 will become more effective.
So a lot of timing, a lot of safety, and a lot of planning needs to go into this one. And Nocturne was in fact run. It was IG versus EDG, so showing some face, if it were, into the lane. So let's take a look at how the early laning is matched up. Shallow wards across the board. And it looks like ROCCAT want to initiate the lane swap. It also looks like UOL seem to have read that, at least for the time being.
Yeah, for now they seem to have, but the Unicorns and ROCCAT are both playing fairly defensively right now to start this game out, so we will have to see exactly how that progresses. But one thing is for certain is Nukeduck very rarely gets his LeBlanc, and a nice start here by the ROCCAT mid and top combination is they know Maokai's in no rush to get to lane, so they actually give Nukeduck a couple of saplings on the Raptors. This is going to allow Nukeduck to hit level 2 earlier than Kog'Maw in this setup. And interestingly, Chachi, obviously Nocturne is used to being a jungler himself, so can just jungle around the early game here and use his passive, keep himself a little bit healthier, and deal out a lot of damage as he clears these camps.
So we'll have a look at how effectively Unicorns can handle this early game. I want to go back to Hylissang's champion pool because it's something that has been tested actually multiple times this year. And when Fnatic beat Unicorns of Love, it was actually spearheaded by taking away Hylissang's core impactful champions of that Thresh, Morgana, Annie. Those were his 3 primaries. Then there was Leona, and then in the finals was Braum because he had to get pushed so far. He has Annie available. Ooh, early flash from Vardags. Really respecting the death sentence from Vander.
Yeah, and Jankos is... flash from him!
Well, we'll see. Can Nukeduck land on the chains? He doesn't even need them! As Nukeduck gets first blood, and he's got some points for ROCCAT.
He has got some points on the board for ROCCAT, and this is the one thing that actually PowerOfEvil has been fairly vocal on, is it's all about getting to that level 11 point. If the pressure is on early and Kog'Maw cannot at least stay even, he falls so far behind, and that's a problem that the Unicorns have as well, is when Power is not carrying, they seem to not do so well. But Kikis wants to have something to say.
Well, Vander's caught out, he eats a barrel, Kikis goes in with the body slam, and Vardags replies. He gets the help of Kikis and gets a kill on the board for Unicorns. I hope this tempo continues.
I hope the tempo continues as well. Jankos has been spotted on his red buff, but I feel like the mid kill is going to be so much more impactful right now, because we know what Nukeduck can do when he's given LeBlanc, and we know, as I said, what the Unicorns can't do when PowerOfEvil is behind. So honestly, Kikis may need to turn his attention to stopping Nukeduck from snowballing this game from the mid lane.
Well, we'll see if we can make that work. Even on gold, lanes have swapped out. Vizicsacsi's gonna have that unspeakable horror spell shield. Rather, Shroud of Darkness spell shield. W, of course, to block at least one of the initiation tools from Steve. The fact that he's got no summoner spell means Jankos could punish him. Something we've seen teams do very well in the last 2 weeks is punish top laners that have no mobility, utility summoners like that Flash.
Yeah, they really have. And, I mean, Chachi is a top laner who loves to 1v1 as much as he possibly can. We saw yesterday the games against Rise, when he got into 1v1 situations, he was just able to pile on so much pressure. And you can see he's already forcing Steve to respect him early on in this game. As you said, though, if it gets punished, if Nocturne pushes up too far, no flash may be problematic. Here's the Fear Tether landing.
Well, Chachi puts a lot of damage down onto Steve. Got himself an early advantage. You can see that Umbra Blade's passive just shoving the wave out. Jankos finds Kikis, the barrel goes down, the body slam connects, they're trading back and forth. A furious bite from a furious queen. And Kikis needs to get away, but they end up trading relatively evenly. And you can see the jungler's priority being in that lane.
You can tell, though, that Jankos is, just in general, feeling a lot more confident after their win yesterday, as Jankos kind of has returned somewhat to that first Blood Master. But Hylissang, he's caught out, doesn't get caught by the binding.
No, early flash, smart play. We see Hylissang and we automatically assume binding.
Yes,
right?
yeah, exactly.
That's how synonymous Hylissang is with Morgana. But we do, in fact, see him getting away. So we'll see how this Vizicsacsi Nocturne builds. He's got himself a Ruby Crystal early on. In his top lane, it's not jungle. Kikis has got Gragas in the jungle.
So with that smite, I'm assuming he's going to want to go for 1v1 potential, so looking for that challenging smite out of skirmishes, get himself into favorable trades, and then look to build a combination of damage and slight tankiness on this Nocturne, maybe looking towards a Black Cleaver late into the game, that kind of build. That's what we've seen when it comes to these split-pushing top laners. When they run smite, it's kind of a very situational setup here for a champion like Nocturne, but Hylissang, he's been spotted on the Tremor Sense, but Jankos was spotted as well.
We'll see if Jankos can make the tower dive work. I think they go for it. He's moved in. Death Sentence does not connect. Vander's gone wide multiple times, and Jankos on the retreat.
I like it, though, from ROCCAT. As soon as that hook doesn't hit, they just bail out of that plan. You've seen teams before go, oh, we didn't hit the hook, let's just go anyway. But you could see that Hylissang had the stun charged up. That wasn't the kind of engage that ROCCAT wanted, and they get away with it. Yes, it's a little bit of wasted time, but they actually gave not a lot up to Unicorns for that. But I really want to keep track of this 1v1 in the bottom side of the map. 63 CS to 46, already opening up a lead from Chachi onto Steve.
And Bomby Cinder as well as skirmishes, so it's going to be that sort of traditional traditional smite top laner build is what we're looking at for Vizicsacsi, with some scaling tankiness once that becomes the Cinderhulk. I do want to see if Chachi decides to split push, because Nocturne is fantastic at clearing waves. And I think the last LCS performance that I remember that stands out was actually Meteos running it last year, and he ended up split pushing his way to a victory. Yeah,
it's interesting because when Nocturne used to be played, one of the problems he had was he kind of needed a little bit of early game damage when it came to building jungle items that gave damage. The equivalent would now be Warrior. but he's so binary that there's not a lot of outplay potential on a Nocturne, so you end up having this mix of damage and tankiness without being strictly one or the other. You never get to just obliterate somebody, but you can't take a lot of damage at the same time. So Chachi building towards that Cinder Hulk, is he actually going to go full tank here, or will he look to mix in some damage? That is the question that only Chachi knows the answer to right now.
So we'll find out how he handles it, considering how much damage PowerOfEvil has done on this Kog'Maw. We talked about it leading up to this week, how PowerOfEvil was responsible for around 50%, just under, of his team's total damage. And that was, of course, because his team simply did not deliver last week. We'll see what he can do. Vardags throws down on the hunt. Hylissang throws down the Tibbers. The barrel throws Woolite away. One more to attack, and the Ignite secures it. Vardags actually flashed in case it did not, but there was no target left to hit.
Another great setup from Unicorns in this duo lane, and again, ROCCAT drop a kill in that top lane. And the thing that ROCCAT haven't done since getting that early pressure on mid lane is really utilize it much more than Nukeduck just taking a slight CS advantage in the lane. They have to shut down PowerOfEvil a little bit more because it's so quiet. But look at Jankos heading back up to the top side of the map. The question is, well, the problem is, Kikis has two teammates around if they can get to him.
Well, going to be able to sink the fangs in. Vardags and Hylissang on the retreat. Kikis is being burned away. Summon a heal for the movement speed and the HP. There's the paranoia as Vizicsacsi teleports it in, but they're in such close range they can make it count. Vizicsacsi gets caught by the death sentence, and ROCCAT are going to string together 2 kills. Jankos is healing. It's not enough. Vizicacsi's Ignite, rather burn, is going to secure it from that smite. Hylissang now the next target to fall. Double kill for Woolite. 4-3. And what ends up being a 1-for-3 trade.
It's exactly what ROCCAT needed. It looked perhaps like Jankos and Vander may have been in trouble, but the teleports came out from Vizicsacsi and Steve up to the top lane. The great pickups there for ROCCAT, and you just saw that Unicorns of Love overstayed a little bit. One thing that I want to bring up with regards to this composition from the Unicorns that they couldn't utilize then, as we take a look at the start of this fight, is when they get the ultimate from Vizicsacsi, Steve is not going to be able to react with a teleport if he hits it first. That's a crucial thing. But look, Steve's teleport is already channeling all the way before Chachi manages to activate his teleport even. So ROCCAT already had the health advantage in this fight, and Chachi is an easy pickoff here. As I said, Nocturne is fairly binary. He gets the kill on Jankos, yes, but the rest of ROCCAT are just cleaning everything up. All Chachi can do is auto-attack at that point.
It's not going to be enough, unfortunately. So ROCCAT pull marginally ahead as we've crossed over the first 10 minutes of the game. Got themselves a CS lead, and before we can talk about that, it looks like another fight is about to break out. Hylissang is going to throw down Tibbers once more. The barrel comboed for the kill, and Vardags is 2-1-2. Melting Vander where he stands.
Swift little move from the Unicorns, bringing their bot lane and their jungler down. As I don't think ROCCAT were really expecting that one, that you finally settle yourselves in this bottom side of the map 2v2, and there's a jungler there at the same time. However, Jankos, speaking of junglers,
let's have another fight. Jankos finds Kikis, knocks him up. Woolite's got red buff. He's got the passive flinging out the shots. Barrel comes out, and Woolite is going to get his 3rd kill of the game. And it's non-stop action, 9 kills in 12 minutes.
That's twice in almost as many minutes that Kikis has been in the enemy jungle and ends up dying for it. And that's something Unicorns of Love have to really tighten up on here. Chachi's the one going into the jungle now. This was where Kikis was last time he died. But if they're giving away too many kills here, Rek'Sai is actually coming up behind Vizicsacsi. Can he maybe look to get out of this? No flash. We already said it's a Nocturne.
Well, Paranoia goes down. That's going to switch the lights out for a second as Jankos and Steve get themselves another kill. And I'm going to go back to our pre-game stress and say, Unicorns of Love are a team that have made positional and decision mistakes in the past. It seems that's the team that showed up in the first laning phase of this game.
Well, Hylissang's going to try and say something about that, and has been with his stuns, but I would certainly agree so far, Trevor, as you know, honestly, Unicorns, they've just they've made the same mistake a couple of times. Kikis pushes in, now Chachi pushes in, and we said about it, like, Chachi, or it was actually Steve that got exploited when he had no flash on the Hecarim in the second game from pushing up too much. So ROCCAT is saying, oh, that's an error we made. We'll just punish you for it because we know what's going to happen. This time, however, Tib is available on Hylissang.
Woolite and Vander both get stunned. The boomerang blade connects onto Vander, and Woolite's knocked to safety. Vander tries to save his life, but he will get taken out. One more auto attack from Vardags. PowerOfEvil is landing the artillery shots onto Jankos. He's got needlessly large rod, but mana pool is slowly draining. Uses the ghost. Here comes Nukeduck. Ethereal Chains. Will they connect? Nukeduck is holding on to it. Now everything is getting a little bit messy. His fear is going to at least throw Nukeduck away as Kikis and PowerOfEvil are focusing down Steve. Steve, everyone's yelling your name, Steve. Can you run away, Steve? No, you cannot, because fire burns trees. And Hylissang takes down Maokai to even a kill 6-6.
Unicorns are dragging ROCCAT into the madness, though, and that's always a problem if you're facing the Unicorns of Love, is if you get dragged into these fights, you have to make sure your composition is able to do so, because they even had a surround on PowerOfEvil, but just didn't have the damage. Interestingly, though, Unicorns haven't yet turned their attention to the Dragon from that fight. They instead looked to Shabon, and Vander got it! Oh, the hook. And honestly, that's a massive punish now on Unicorns, not being able to get the Dragon. Mid-tower falls, but they could have got that anyway, and Kikis spent his time on blue.
Well, I don't think we're going to get a chance to explain anything, because it looks like another fight wants to break out. Unicorns of Love have got the fan vote behind them. And just a quick analogy. One of my favorite sayings is, if you ever get into a debate with a silly person,
okay,
don't do it, because they'll drag you down to their level and beat you with experience, right? Okay. Unicorns of Love have got a chaotic, crazy, almost brainless playstyle.
Okay.
And ROCCAT has not experienced that many times before. Unicorns may be dragging ROCCAT down and trying to beat them with experience. We'll see if it pans out, because Chachi's going to get taken out by the combo of Nukeduck and Steve. It's just a matter of time. No real damage to speak of. It's Nukeduck that gets the kill, and we'll see whether or not that analogy pans out, Stress.
The advice, if you ever get dragged into an argument with a crazy person, why do I feel like ever since we've moved office, the person next to me ends up in silly debates with me, Trevor? I have no idea, but, you know, again, Chachi gets caught out in the top side of the map, and Hylissang's getting caught out in the enemy jungle.
Oh, it's Unicorns the other direction. Kikis is going to throw Jankos against the wall. Tunnel goes out. Timbers comes down onto nothing, and Woolite grabs another kill. ROCCAT are now 8-6. Got a small gold lead, and they will turn their focus to the Dragon.
Yeah, this is a lot better out of ROCCAT. I'm wondering, you know that saying, fool me once, shame on you. What happens when it gets to like 4 or 5 times? Because that's where the Unicorns are at right now, and honestly, they keep stepping forward when they do not have complete vision control and don't have a read on ROCCAT's numbers, and ROCCAT will capitalize on that every single time. They now have a Dragon lead with 1 on the board, and they have a gold lead on top of that, and quite frankly, ROCCAT are showing up again. Yesterday, I was thinking it. ROCCAT played very well, that if they were facing anybody that wasn't Fnatic, I think they may have actually had a chance to win the game.
Oh, they had a chance to win the game against Fnatic, but I think, yeah, I agree with that statement. ROCCAT had very good team fights, much better positioning, and their composition was played well. Speaking
of compositions, though, the Unicorns of Love, I have one question about just the team and the playstyle in general is, they're again on another composition where you hit level 11 and you get these easy power spike reads, and it seems like without it they make very questionable decisions. We already saw yesterday teams banning away this Kog'Maw, and I feel like it's a good strategy against the Unicorns of Love, because when they don't have a very clear moment that they need to go aggressive or that their composition falls into its power zone, they definitely do not seem as strong a team.
We'll see whether or not they can make advantage of that, Stress, because we're getting closer to the obvious power spikes. I do want to touch on the items, because we do have a brief moment, as we're 17 minutes in, even on gold. Going tanky for Steve. He's actually finished off that Frozen Heart before the Righteous Glory. Cinder Hulk as well as Kindle Gem there for Chachi. He's still building his way up. Warrior Enchant on Jankos' Rek'Sai, and then Luden's Ekko to peer the Infinity Edges from both AD carries. So just taking stock of where we are item-wise, it seems and feels relatively even across the board.
Yeah, it certainly does. And honestly, that's a little surprising when it comes to how much you snowball against each other when it goes back and forth. But the kills have been even in all of these trades. So Unicorns, yes, they're a little bit behind, but it's only the matter of the 2 kills really between each. All the lanes are fairly even as well when you look at it. And that will bode well for the Unicorns in a very similar way to how Giants just played. This is actually somewhat similar. You've got a lot of poke potential coming from the rest of your team when you have a split pusher off in a side lane. Speaking of split pushers off in a side lane, Chachi is caught out again.
Well, this is another time. Ooh, gonna be in trouble. Nukeduck is trying to chase. If the chains do not connect, I don't think they'll kill him, but the chains actually didn't connect. That was on a minion. A flash knockup from Jankos means Vizicsacsi will get taken down by Nukeduck at the cost of the inner turret.
Yeah, look at how many people Vizicsacsi soaked into that top side. The Unicorns may get a little bit scared here, but it's Woolite that's doing the most damage on the map as he's taken down the bottom lane turret. So Unicorns didn't fully commit to mid lane, and Woolite picks up a turret for ROCCAT. Every time Unicorns try and make a power play, ROCCAT seem to have at least something somewhere for their number.
So we do see teleport advantage with Vizicsacsi. He will be respawning in 10 seconds and some wards behind ROCCAT. And of course that tower in the inner mid lane did not fall. So that means Unicorns of Love are now even on towers. Kikis eats that death sentence, and Steve is in trouble. We'll see if we can get away from this one. Real chains don't connect. He takes a ride on the Thresh Express to get out of danger. Flash and Tibbers are up, so keep your eyes on Hylissang as a primary initiating force.
Teleport was just used by Vizicsacsi as well, and one thing that Unicorns kind of will have in their favor is as long as they have vision control, they actually don't necessarily need to set up the flanks quite as well as you normally would, because if they're not using the ultimate from Nocturne to stop Steve from teleporting, it gives you pretty much an automatic entry into the backline as long as the fight is beneficial to you. So that's what Unicorns were looking to do, is they set up Chachi teleporting in a little bit outside of the fight, and they were looking to get him in from the side.
So it didn't work out this time around. Teleport advantage will go to Steve in a short while. We did catch glimpses of that blue buff being secured by Kikis and Unicorns of Love. Keep in mind, the previous one was secured by Vander. This one was stolen by UOL, so Nukeduck is not getting his hands on that blue Sentinel buff at all this game. And that is keeping him just a little quieter than maybe he could be. However, 3-0-1, he's still doing exactly what ROCCAT needed to.
Yeah, that was what I was going to say, is the fact that this game started with a kill in the middle lane. Ooh, Flash didn't connect.
Tibbers is a big teddy, but doesn't want to give anyone a hug. And ROCCAT say, thank you, we will take that tower, and back out without giving up anything just yet.
Kikis was looking to engage, but can't really find the angle, and that's something Unicorns have struggled with this game just in general, is they haven't been able to get the engages they want. However, we have pretty much just hit the point we've been talking about all game, and I'm pretty sure people are probably sick of the words level 11 right now, but it is such a crucial point for the Unicorns of Love. PowerOfEvil is now level 12 himself, still behind, and actually the way he's playing feels very passive considering how this game has been somewhat even when it comes to the 1v1 setup between Kog'Maw. Yes, Nukeduck has picked up kills elsewhere, but Kog'Maw still only that one death on him from the very early game.
Yeah, and it's not really been about the mid laners.
No,
every time we've looked top and bottom, it's been Chachi caught out or ROCCAT being engaged on by Hylissang. It's the other lanes that have been impactful. For example, this is a mistake that Kikis and Vizicsacsi have made. Jankos, you're on the wrong side of the map, and the flash body slam connects. Hylissang, however, cannot find the stun because he did not have flash up, and that means Kikis' engage or disengage potential is lowered.
Jankos gets away with his life from that one, and that's the first, well, the death he had in this game is actually the first one of the week, as we said, went unkilled in yesterday's games. Jankos really has started to step it up. Along with it, at least this week, but again, we're only 2 weeks in. If you don't do so well one week and you do better the next week, I would say that's stepping up.
50% of your weeks you've done well.
I guess it's a glass half empty, glass half full kind of thing.
No, I'm a pessimist. It's definitely half empty. We'll see whether or not Jankos agrees at 1-1-6. Got that Giant's Belt plus Hex Drinker. Death Cap completed for Nukeduck. Very big spike in damage. Dragon is being shredded away. Should be secured and is secured as Kikis is able to smite it down. The culling goes out and Steve is looking for an engagement. Look at Hylissang. No flash. But he's not going to find anybody to stun up, and ROCCAT forced to peel away. Even on Dragons, 1-1.
Yeah, all Unicorns had to do there was kite back, just land a lot of poke damage and get yourself set up, because the one thing they're going to have to do now is set the rest of the map up for Vizicsacsi once again. Not a lot of wards on the top side of the map when it comes to the ROCCAT side of the jungle. The Unicorns mostly have them on themselves. That was explosive cask used by Kikis, and they didn't really get too much from it. That's a big engage tool as ROCCAT settle themselves in front of an inner tower. I don't think Unicorns are actually going to get here in response.
Oh, what great play from ROCCAT, making Unicorns choose the long, safe route.
Yeah.
Taking advantage of all the time and minions they'd built up. So ROCCAT, 4 towers to 2, have arrested some control in this game. Marginal leads despite giving up that previous string. PowerOfEvil almost gets popped, forced to flash into the replicant.
Oh, Hylissang's caught.
Doesn't even get the tippers down. It's Nukeduck and grabs himself his 4th kill of the game. Goes on a rampage.
Man, Unicorns just have been sloppy when it comes to being out of position. You have to respect the fact that the top tower has already fallen. So you sacrifice top side jungle.
What a hook from Vander as Woolite gets the kill. ROCCAT now 5 versus 3. They are going to get another inner turret. There's not a lot that Unicorns can do to defend this. And ROCCAT are now in the driver's seat firmly. Level 11, my behind. ROCCAT spit in Unicorn's face and take another tower.
Well, this is the really nice moves from ROCCAT when you look at it. They take the top tower knowing that Unicorns are being forced down and out of the Dragon Pit because Woolite found the time to go over. Then they come towards mid lane and find Hylissang and Kikis just stepping forward past those jungle entrances. That's not what Unicorns can do in those kind of situations. It's only a matter of time before ROCCAT look for the bottom side of the map now as well, with the bottom outer tower, but no dragon on the board anytime soon. Another couple of minutes before that comes up. The only real possibilities that Unicorns have anything to do with is look towards the top side of the map, look towards that top outer, look maybe for, I don't want to say they should do a Desperation Baron, but I feel like Unicorns may pull that trigger if the opportunity arises.
Well, we'll see whether or not they get enough time. They do have multiple smites on their side. Kog'Maw with his W. Even a Black Cleaver on Vizicsacsi, so he's built himself up a little bit of damage to go with some of that tankiness. Chachi's still somewhat committed to the split pushing role. Now, Unicorns comp plays out in a very similar way to the Giants team comp from the previous game.
There's a big difference, though, between this game and the last game. Jax was ahead and just crushed everybody. This game, ROCCAT played around Vizicsacsi being pushed up in lane with no flash, no escape tools. He only has that spell shield to get himself out and the little trail on the floor to run faster, but you know, it just has been a much better game plan from ROCCAT against the split pusher than SK did against Giants.
We'll see whether or not ROCCAT can keep it up, because so far the answer is a resounding yes. 5 towers to 3. You know, you touched on the gold lead, 4,000. The thing I'm most impressed about from ROCCAT is just how together they are as a unit when they're pushing those towers down. When they rotate to the top inner, rotate to mid inner. You know, Vander missed a couple of hooks in the laning phase, but it doesn't matter because he catches Kikis under the tower and gets a tower as well as another kill. So when it matters, Vander is connecting with the important objectives and they're dissuading the power of the poke from Kog'Maw mid.
Oh, for sure. And one thing I want to kind of note is a bit of a change here is Steve looking very comfortable, and his timings of when he's grouping and when he's not with the team has actually been very good this game. You can see now Chachi is finding time to push up in the bottom lane, and Steve's just going to go away and clear the wave. Just only for a short amount of time, because he knows if he has to teleport, Chachi is going to hit his ultimate first, because if Unicorns want to engage the fight, they can set with Vizicsacsi when he's going to teleport, so he just ults first and Steve can never follow. However, Steve is with the team, so that is no longer an advantage, and we thought maybe Unicorns might go for a desperation one, but they've spotted it.
Yeah, I don't really know if this is going to work out, but there is a trap squad set up with a lot of burst. ROCCAT have got the ability to just annihilate anybody with that Nukeduck LeBlanc. Currently got a lot of AP, sitting 427. Potentially the makings of a Void Staff, but no Baron. They pulled Unicorns towards them and then they peeled away.
ROCCAT have been stalled out a little bit here, and it's because of what Chachi was doing in the bottom lane, pushing up, just making himself a bit of a nuisance. And if ROCCAT let him do that, that's going to be very tough. Rek'Sai ultimate is going to bring him towards the middle side of the map. Nukeduck, oh, has a flank. Here's the teleport from Steve.
Nukeduck gets stunned up and Vizicsacsi throws in with Paranoia. That's a shutdown kill onto Nukeduck. Death Sentence connects on PowerOfEvil, so both mid laners are down, but the Acathian Surprise deals damage from beyond the grave. Woolite is throwing out those light slingers and he's stunned by Tibbers. Does manage to get on the Thresh Express out as Vander flays Vizicsacsi away. Now Vardags forced to retreat. So far it's 1-for-1 as ROCCAT are running away and Steve gets cut down where he stands. Vardags, it's his fourth of the game, and Unicorns set their sights on the inner turrets.
ROCCAT initiate the fight, but Nukeduck is caught out in between the entirety of the Unicorns lineup. And that is just a weird mistake from ROCCAT, not being all on the same page, looking for that engage. Then Woolite gets caught in the middle of the fight as well. The Unicorns have a fair few options here, and it looks like they're going to look for that dragon and put the second one on the board for themselves.
So, Unicorns of Love fall behind. They find an opening to at least even up that gold. There's a big minion wave down bottom for Kog'Maw to sink his teeth into, and here's the team fights.
So I talked about how if his Unicorns engaging, Steve should never be able to join because of the paranoia. This time, ROCCAT engage on two fronts, and a battle on two fronts is one that is way more difficult to win here. The Unicorns picked the very squishy target rather than the Maokai and said, okay, you can have PowerOfEvil. Then the re-engage comes. Vardags is forced out of the fight, which is actually okay because of just how many members of Unicorns are around him. You can see Steve didn't really have much when it came to target selection once Vardags had gone. And that was just a lot better out of the Unicorns with regards to their counter-engage than ROCCAT's initial engage.
I also like the fact that Hylissang heads up play through that Disintegrate to guarantee the stun on Nukeduck. Make it real easy for the rest of UOL to collapse on him. So ROCCAT come out worse for wear. We're hitting 30 minutes into this game, and we've got another back and forth even matchup. These teams are starting to feel one another out. PowerOfEvil got his next blasting wand up. Void Staff completed for Nukeduck. So if anyone's out of position, Nukeduck's going to keep them alive.
Yeah, but Nukeduck did step forward in the last one and got a little bit cut out. Are you trying to say you want Nukeduck to get a lot more kills, Trevor?
I am. I mean, you drafted him for my PTL FL4 league while I was away, and this week I'm up against Gordon Hayward, and I'm sincerely hoping for a win. I wouldn't mind if Vardags and Nukeduck killed everybody and then killed each other, because Vardags is also on my team.
Double penta, that's what we'll go for.
If anybody else is playing fantasy at home, I hope your fantasy league is also going in your favor. Look at the minimap really quickly. ROCCAT's back on Baron. Vizicsacsi does have teleport though.
Oh.
So let's see whether or not Woolite and Jankos can make this one work. There's a lot of armor, but again, look at the sort of gank swad of Steve and Vander. Baron, it's gone.
Yeah, this time no blue trinkets anywhere near for the Unicorns, and they are unable to react to the Baron going down very quickly from ROCCAT. I mean, that's just a bit of an oversight from the Unicorns, not being able to have that pressure on the top side of the map. And that's a little bit worrying, because you consider that Vizicsacsi should be the one creating pressure when it comes to pushing up in a side lane. The problem is the team haven't been able to do that. Chachi's been caught out a lot.
Yeah, and of course you look at that graphic, Unicorns of Love, no Baron secured last week. 3 for ROCCAT. This makes it their 4th Baron. I don't know if they got one yesterday, I doubt it. And it just shows you the priority. ROCCAT playing for Barons, playing around the objective, whereas Unicorns of Love are not. You could argue their team composition, not necessarily the greatest at fighting in a Baron pit, so it's not really what they're building to do. But good priority from ROCCAT, and all of a sudden ROCCAT, once again, regain control.
And that's a bit of a weird one when it comes to what the Unicorns want to do. They're not running a lot of poke, they're running poke plus engage, which is kind of very different ideas. And where did that blue buff
I think PowerOfEvil
ended up getting it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. That's actually super important. It's been touched on before, I'm sure, in many of the other Unicorns games, but you need that blue buff on the Kog'Maw. Cooldown reduction mana, make sure you can keep people alive, but that's a Rylai's Crystal Scepter on Kog'Maw, which is not something that PowerOfEvil has done particularly too much.
Alright, we'll see if it works out for him. We do see Righteous Glory in the hands of Hylissang. We do see Locket for Vander. Another needlessly large rod for Nukeduck as Woolite has grabbed himself that QSS to get rid of the fear from Nocturne or the stun from A.
Yeah, so all of those items kind of make up for different parts of the compositions that are maybe lacking a little bit. Unicorns, that Rallies is going to assist with the ability for Power to land his ultimates. It's very similar to kind of the Iceborne Gauntlet that we heard Adri talking about. You need that extra crowd control just to make the ultimates easier. Same Righteous Glory, extra engage potential coming out from Hylissang. I don't really know whether they need it as such, but it's certainly going to help.
Well, the game has stalled out. It is slowed down quite dramatically from the opening 20 minutes. Unicorns unable to get enough poke to siege, and ROCCAT a little hesitant to siege because of the poke. They do have Baron, however, less than a quarter of the time remaining, and they may actually be committing to this bottom turret. Look, top lane, they've got a lot of minions to play with, and this might be the siege, but again, afraid of the poke and the wave clear.
I mean, if you're Vizicsacsi right now, you have to be very frustrated by your inability to control the map in the way that you need to. And you know that if Unicorns are playing this strategy, they must have practiced it, and it must have worked well for them. We saw that with the Shaco, where it just worked wonders from them, and they've been playing it in scrims and doing very well for it. The Unicorns right now, though, when it comes to this setup, they are struggling to control waves because Vizicsacsi cannot 1v1 anybody because, quite frankly, he doesn't have damage. That's the problem. And it's always been Nocturne's problem. As I said earlier, as soon as you start itemizing towards tank stats, you lose all of your ability to duel anybody. And that is what Vizicsacsi is feeling right now.
Jack of all trades, master of none. As Vizicsacsi is doing what he can to impact the game. He does have teleports available. We've seen a couple members of ROCCAT without Baron, a little more successful in their siege. However, Kikis used the explosive cast just to clear the minions away, and Unicorns hold on to their last remaining outer turrets.
Really odd timing on that ultimate usage. My assumption is they wanted to maybe kind of bait ROCCAT into thinking PowerOfEvil was there, but he just showed himself in the mid lane not a couple of seconds after, so ROCCAT now know there's no disengage from the Unicorns. The only gear the Unicorns have right now to defend this turret is engage, and they want to go for it.
We'll see if they can find a target. On the hunt has been used, and ROCCAT have split themselves up. Hylissang flashes, he manages to catch Woolite, but the QSS comes out, and Woolite's able to get out with the heal. Now Vizicsacsi is looking for Jankos. He should be able to win this duel. Duskbringer connects, but so does the knockup. Jankos is on the way out, and he's got a tunnel to escape to.
He's never going to get that kill. However, Woolite just picked up Dragon.
As did the rest of ROCCAT.
Was that ROCCAT starting that? It looked like it, and Unicorns just couldn't get there, but that's a real key factor now, because Unicorns and ROCCAT now, with that Dragon in the bag, can just look to continue to push turrets, and Unicorns are stuck playing defensively once again, and it means they can't get out on the map to utilize their composition very well at all.
Well, we do see Vander.
Oh, Kikis.
Kikis is going to use an explosive cast before getting exploded himself. Nukeduck nukes him down, and minion wave is cleared out. Yes, ROCCAT got an advantage with that Dragon. It's the second. Ooh, PowerOfEvil hits 3 in a row. I think that was 4 in a row. Running low on mana before he continues spamming. The problem is, there's so much wave clear. Sivir, Kog, even Nocturne's Q is great.
That is one thing that Unicorns have had in their favor defensively, is they can sit there for days, and there's just no real way of ROCCAT pushing him without a fight, but ROCCAT are just going to stack dragons again and again, and then look to get a Baron, and at the Baron point, that's when they can push in.
Well, we're in for a long one there, Straight.
Yes, we are.
It's 2 dragons to 2.
Yes, it is, and, you know, if...
ROCCAT in hour-long epics?
Never.
Never. As
I said, the European LCS is back. Everybody beats everybody, and Fnatic are at the top. But
yeah, that's the truth. I must admit, though, ROCCAT did impress me in their early game. I think they handled the craziness that UOL threw at them, punished UOL's mistakes, and ROCCAT unfortunately have just stalled out because of the just really, really high levels of wave clear that Unicorns have put on the board. Even the Baron was not used effectively or efficiently enough. They got a couple of towers, but he didn't crack open any of those bases, and they tried for 2 or 3 minutes on the bottom in a turret. He did not secure it. So for ROCCAT, it's equally as frustrating to have the tools and have that opportunity dwindle away.
It really is frustrating, but you know, ROCCAT at the same time, if they can get Unicorns out of their base, then the wave clear becomes almost a non-factor, because that's when they drag them into skirmishes. And you've seen Kikis get caught out outside of the base again and again. His 3 deaths have basically been being in areas of the jungle that Unicorns of Love don't have control of. 2 early game were in the opposite jungle. Now it's been in their own jungle, and it's a problem that is rearing its head again and again for Unicorns in this game, at least.
Yeah, I'm glad you bring that up, because Kikis in the spring split had the ability to impact the game because he seemed to be one step ahead.
Yes.
He seemed to have a better read on the game. But as Unicorns are playing more games and more people are watching them and coming to grips with their play style, they don't have that same level of freedom. They don't have that same level of surprise factor. ROCCAT showing it through this game, like punishing UOL being in the wrong place at the wrong time. So Baron's respawned. Dragon will be up in a couple of minutes' time. ROCCAT seems to have positioning in mid.
Yeah, they're out of the base, so that, again, the wave clear is not so important. Unicorns are going to have to look to engage on ROCCAT here if they want to catch him. Righteous Glories have been popped.
Well, looks like they're going to start on Steve, but that's not the best target. That's a very big tree. That's a good Shroud of Darkness to cancel the death sentence. The Unicorns of Love forced to disengage. So Righteous Glory is on the hunt. The 2 abilities popped. It did not come to much.
Well, we're back to this. Unicorns, they found themselves the position in the middle lane and managed to cut ROCCAT off. ROCCAT couldn't get in front of the tower quite quickly enough, but the one place ROCCAT could have gone to maybe beat Unicorns to the punch would be to go on Vizicsacsi. He is very tanky, though, at this point.
Well, Nukeduck did commit, connected to the chain, but unable to follow through, and this may be the tower.
Yeah, this is the tower that they really should be getting anyway, but it's all a distraction because the rest of ROCCAT, I would say, are going to do Baron, but they haven't dewarded at all, and Unicorns know exactly what's happening, so it's not even a distraction.
Yeah, not a whole lot of tankiness there either. Yeah, Steve would be the only one, but not against members of Unicorns and the Baron. Nukeduck holding on to the chains and misses the point-blank shot. They are often the easiest. As we see a number of wards littered around Baron. Look at Unicorn's vision around the Baron pit. They got a lot to work with.
And honestly, this is not something ROCCAT should have let happen, is that the Unicorns have got this many wards down, and ROCCAT just kept backing away. They had all of this pressure stacked onto the Unicorns of Love, but just the Unicorns got out onto the map, deterred ROCCAT from taking any kind of fight. And again, part of it is because of the wave clear, part of it is because of how Unicorns can poke down from such a long range, but when it comes to wave management, ROCCAT have generally been pushing in all 3 waves. There have been instances where it hasn't been so good for them, but when you have all 3 lanes pushing in, your opponents should not be able to get vision control.
Well, we'll see whether or not any of that vision actually helps Unicorns, because if ROCCAT aren't around, it's not going to play in their favor. I do want to touch on the fact that Hylissang, whoa, takes a ton of damage. Is going to be forced to flash defensively, on the hunt, used to run away, but here comes Steve, and Steve gets Hylissang. Unicorns are now split. Kikis body slams over the wall. He's flayed back, he's death sentenced in, he's knocked up, and the barrel knocks ROCCAT away. So Unicorns of Love cannot wave clear just yet with a full complement of champions. It's all on Vardags, and it's not going to be enough. ROCCAT have cracked open the base and found Unicorns out of position.
That has really become just something that, again and again throughout this game, Kikis and Hylissang, and this is nothing to do with the bans that were focused on Hylissang either. We know he's comfortable on Annie. The 2 of them have just been out of position a couple of times. A lot of it is on ROCCAT actually dragging them into that kind of position and having vision control over the area, but it's a 50-50 on these 2 things. ROCCAT are going to secure the Baron. The Dragon has just come up, but Unicorns, we already alluded to, the Dragon state right now is only 2 for 2. So this is just going to be the 3rd for them.
So, Dragon number 3. 7,000 gold in the lead for ROCCAT. We're over 41 minutes into the game. ROCCAT, again, are still in control, and now, more than ever, super minions in the middle lane. Baron-empowered minions wherever their champions are. And they've got until 43 minutes and 43 seconds to not break the longest game record that was set earlier today. ROCCAT held that title for multiple games in the spring split, but I think with Baron, it's could be a way in. Let's see if they can deal with the wave clear. It makes life a lot more difficult for PowerOfEvil and Vardags to clear that out.
It does, but ROCCAT aren't yet utilizing multiple waves yet. And honestly, we talked about how Chachi can't really 1v1 anybody, so if they put Steve in another lane when his teleport's not available, I was about to say if his teleport's up, but Chachi has gone on to Woolite.
And Woolite's going to get feared, and then he's going to QSS, but Tibbers comes down for a nice bear hug. And Vizicsacsi doesn't need to 1-on-1 when he can 5-on-1.
And that's the vision control that the Unicorns of Love should not have at this point in the game, paying dividends. Chachi gets his ultimate, the paranoia, right onto a squishy target. And yes, I said the Nocturne normally can't 1v1 somebody, and generally that statement is true, but if it's Woolite and he's squishy and this late into the game, then it's certainly going to happen.
Well, luckily he had the support of his entire team as well. Nukeduck is going to be able to get out with that distortion. Now, keep in mind, with Woolite going down in a 35-second death timer, having Baron and super minions is not that valuable. Unicorns of Love are tanking up the tower. Death sentence from Vander does not connect. Tower is down. Unicorns now looking to mirror the inhibitor down. That will put supers against supers, and a big, giant pause button has landed. We're 20 seconds away from the longest game in the summer split, and we're nowhere near finishing yet.
Record-breaking games. That's how I like it in week 2 of the summer split.
Not bad for your second LCS game here, Stressy Poo. Too endearing?
Well, I don't know how to follow that up.
I'm just checking.
We're only 2 games in, Trev. I don't know whether...
Okay.
Are we at that?
I'll find another one. I'll find another one.
Oh, God. Now I'm worried.
Well, you should be.
Because it's only going to get worse
yes.
if that's the case.
Oh, yes.
Oh, dear.
So, ROCCAT, 7 towers to Unicorns, 5. Supers in both lanes. Baron, I'll double check the timer there. Should be wearing off very, very soon. Less than 10% of that time remaining. We're only 3 dragons to 2. And really, it's a matter of ROCCAT not being able to engage and Unicorns wave clearing and trying to stay away from the engage. So we've got this very awkward dichotomy of teams trying to win, but they kind of counter one another in their natural playstyles.
Yeah, it's rough for ROCCAT to try and close this game out because, again, Unicorns don't have to do anything except sit in front of their waves and just clear them out. And ROCCAT are the ones that have to make the move on this. ROCCAT have to find Unicorns of Love out of position or out of their base and then move in for the kill, but Unicorns...
On the same token, Unicorns have to actually do something if they want to win. You've got to play to win, not play to not lose. So...
Yeah, kind of true, but ROCCAT, ROCCAT being ahead means it's their prerogative to close the game. Gold later into the game becomes less and less effective, and it means that Unicorns are absorbing wave after wave coming towards them. Ultimately, Unicorns of Love, they're out of position.
And they are. Kikis not dead just yet. He's managed to get saved for a few seconds longer before Vander's Ignite ticks him down. Nukeduck eats a living artillery, flashes from the second, Odds-on uses the third, and finally Power takes him down. Kikis was pretending to be out of position, but he was baiting ROCCAT into a false sense of security. It's a 2 for 4 as Jankos is the last man standing. He's going to find Vizicsacsi. He's going to go for the 1v1, but there's a Blade of the Ruined King, Black Cleaver on Vizicsacsi, and it's actually Chachi that decides to run away. 2v4 that started Kikis being caught.
And it's all because of the one mistake that ROCCAT has had plague them for the entirety of the 2015 season, is that Woolite in the middle of the fight just gets completely destroyed to begin it. And ROCCAT run out of damage. PowerOfEvil is pushed up here. They've still got 20 seconds on the shortest death timer here. If they can get a wave in here, it should at least be a Nexus turret here. Lucian is up in 15. They may look to rush this. I don't actually know what Jankos can do. That tower is dying fairly quickly.
This might be the game. For those of you that don't know, the Prince of Wales next to me is as surprised as I am. The Unicorns of Love have taken 2 Nexus turrets down. They're on the Nexus.
Or maybe not.
They're gonna get saved. Woolite is alive. He's dropped PowerOfEvil. Vizicsacsi's the next focus. I've seen this with Unicorns so many times, and it's going to happen again. Hylissang is down, and ROCCAT channeled their inner fanatic to defend their Nexus turrets.
Turnabout's fair play.
Time.
Oh my goodness, turnabout is fair play. Unicorns of Love in Fnatic's shoes this time, trying to close out the game. Man, oh dear. This is...
Oh, here we go!
Kikis is going
He's
for
on
it.
a special mission. He's trying to take it down. It didn't work for Yellowstar when Yellowstar tried it. And Steve is coming to the rescue. Kikis is not going to be able to do much, but look at the minions, top and bottom, buying time and pulling the tanks of ROCCAT away.
I mean, I know Gragas lost a little bit of weight on his body slam, but he is no secret agent. Not really that svelte figure that will slip into the base and take down the Nexus, but it's ROCCAT that are on the counter push. You've seen this one before. I've watched this one before. ROCCAT are now going for the win.
Well, let's see if they can finish it. They've backed away sooner than Unicorns of Love did, but they do have the super minions going down the middle lane. We're 48 minutes in, and this game is balancing on a knife edge.
And from all of the pushing, the things that did the most work there for Unicorns while ROCCAT were pushing in was the minions. They just took another turret in the top lane, but again, Dragons have just been back and forth this game, so it hasn't been, you know, any kind of ending the game, or, you know, a prospect for ending the game for ROCCAT when it comes to closing this one out. Will be getting 5 dragons, but they haven't been able to get it because they've just traded. And now Baron is coming up. Paranoia pop.
Vizicsacsi used Paranoia. He's dived onto ROCCAT, but not able to find a target. Steve was able to flash away. Now all of a sudden, Jankos is sitting deep. Hylissang's caught out. The Tibbers is somewhat of a zoning one as Hylissang is now dropped. The barrel puts a lot of damage and spreads ROCCAT apart. With Steve going down and Hylissang in reply, ROCCAT may be in trouble. Woolite is looking for Kikis. He's got a lot of damage, but Kikis is a mega tank. The Unicorns of Love in a 4 versus 4, but one of the primary tanks from ROCCAT is down.
Now Unicorns have an opportunity to push in while Woolite didn't recall in time. They will get the inhibitor at least. How much poke damage can PowerOfEvil do, and will Nukeduck be able to burst anybody down? That is the real balance here as the Unicorns are looking to push in. Nukeduck cannot find the angle right now. There is no wave for the Unicorns of Love behind them, so they don't have that as an added pressure
like that's
here.
Ever stopped them before.
Exactly, but what they can do is look to go up to bait towards a Baron at this point, and that looks like what they're going to do for now.
Well, we'll see if anyone can take the bait, and if someone's going to get sunk. Woolite flashes over the wall. Good respect flash. Afraid of the engage from Kikis, who had his explosive cast. Look at Nukeduck. Nukeduck wants to blow somebody up. There's a pink ward in a bush. He's chained Kikis in place. Nobody else goes down. And PowerOfEvil, keep an eye on his mana bar. Blue buff is there, but he's down to 50%. He's burning through it with every living artillery shot.
Unicorns are just going to look to push out the top lane. I actually quite like this because there's just too many people around Baron right now. The Unicorns can't take it very quickly at this point, and there's not a lot that ROCCAT are going to do. Saying that, Unicorns are going to start it. Rek'Sai, I was going to say, that's a risky start on that Baron because everybody from ROCCAT was still alive. Unicorns didn't really have full control. They've got a lot of wards down, but ROCCAT still have a couple littered throughout their jungle.
This is now pushing very, very far forward. He eats yet another death sentence. He's in the middle of ROCCAT, and no one from Unicorns is there. Paranoia comes down onto Woolite as Vizicsacsi is melting through his HP. Vizicsacsi goes low before Jankos gets a 3-man knockup. Now Jankos flashes out. Hylissang, you're on the wrong side of the map, buddy. And once ROCCAT realize they're going to rock you, we see Unicorns have peeled away and Vizicsacsi down to 100 HP. PowerOfEvil's poke has managed to peel away from Unicorns, and Hylissang got out alive. That surprised me. And nobody goes down.
Nobody goes down, and ROCCAT turning attention to the Baron, but the thing is that now Unicorns is just going to do exactly what ROCCAT just did to them. Teleport's about to come up for Chachi. Actually, Chachi's gone bot lane. Unicorns aren't in position to actually save this.
Well, nothing can be done. Baron number 3 goes to ROCCAT at the 51-minute mark. Vizicsacsi went bottom lane. I've heard confirmed from our observers he went down to 12 HP in that fight. You don't really get much closer than that. But you saw how much burst he had with that Blade of the Rune King, with Paranoia, with Duskbringer. Even Woolite just got chunked down. That'll be fair, PowerOfEvil landed a living artillery, but I'm going to give this one to Chachi and his top lane Nocturne.
I guess it's something I kind of will say I'd like to see again, but I want to see it again because I want to see how it goes when it's ahead, because that's a very interesting one. Pardon?
when it's done right.
Ooh, wow.
I mean, let's be honest, Vizicsacsi, without any flash, got caught 3 times in the laning phase.
Yeah, I'll concede that point to you.
So, Baron number 3. ROCCAT have not been able to do as much as they would like with the previous Barons. However, they did get a few towers. How do they go about it?
Well, that tells quite the story about this game. Unicorns seem to have not even been looking to be ahead since about 15 minutes into it. And, ROCCAT, I guess that also highlights a big problem, just that ROCCAT, if you've just tuned in, are struggling to close this game. If you've been with us the entire time, you are sick of us saying that already. But, you know, ROCCAT right now, how do they close it out with this Baron buff should seem like a really easy question on Just Push, but Unicorns have been very tenacious in this game. Every single time ROCCAT are trying to make a move, Unicorns always seem to get a much better trade than they should do.
Now, all that wave clear from Unicorns of Love has thwarted any siege ROCCAT have put in place, and the really awkward engage Unicorns have has not worked out. Hylissang had a great early game. He's not had that same level of Flash Tibbers impact, despite a few different attempts. Oh, well, 2 assists to Mercurial is also a big reason for that. Let's see how Unicorns play. They're on the aggressive. They've got Kikis way forward. I think this is the style. Kikis has been the bait for multiple times.
And just the amount of wave clear they have means they're clearing Baroned up minions in their enemy's base. The enemy Baron minions are getting pushed into the ROCCAT base. I don't think I've ever seen this kind of situation before, where the team that is heavily in the lead with Baron are getting shoved in, but the Unicorns are doing it. And ROCCAT cannot find the angle to engage here because, quite frankly, Nukeduck cannot really blow somebody up without a real big misplay from the Unicorns. Now the inhibitor is respawned, so I expect this to turn back on itself because the waves are pushing towards the Unicorns in the side lanes for ROCCAT, but Unicorns, they're going to stand in front of this inhibitor and look like they want to just brute force it down.
Well, we'll see if it can. Kikis has jumped in. Chachi's gone a long distance with Paranoia, and he's got caught out. Vander lands a crucial death sentence, and Woolite shuts down one of the enforcers. Steve gets pulled out by the Lantern, and now we see ROCCAT trying to re-engage. Nukeduck is in trouble. Steve is down. Nukeduck follows suit. Vardags is hammering away with those ricochets. Woolite cleanses, heals. He's trying to... doesn't even get a chance. As all of a sudden, Unicorns of Love may be on for the win. There's no Nexus turrets remaining. They've got to take out the inhibitor first. And in a 4 versus 2, the crowd erupts. Unicorns of Love, Unicorns of Life. They bring themselves back from the brink and take down ROCCAT.
That is the epitome of holding on by your fingertips, and you can see how much it meant to the Unicorns of Love right there. All looking relieved at the end of that game, I would say, more than happy, but certainly that was very, very close to being ROCCAT just closing that one out, but the Unicorns held on fantastic.
Completely agree, and you know, as much as the Unicorns dug deep and wave cleared their way to victory, ROCCAT did almost everything right in the early to mid game, and it just shows how closing the game is still the most difficult of tasks. For an experienced veteran team like ROCCAT, even they were unable to get to the Nexus and kill it.
And ROCCAT had fixed so many of the issues, at least from week 1 to week 2, that was noticeable in yesterday's games against Fnatic, but you saw when the game dragged later, Woolite started being out of position. They couldn't find the flanks on Nukeduck. They couldn't get the picks on Unicorns of Love anymore. And honestly, the early game picks and just catching Unicorns out in the jungle worked so well for ROCCAT early on. But Unicorns, as you said, wave clearing their way. They knew that PowerOfEvil had late game damage with the amount of poke. And the Nocturne, while it didn't exactly do or play the role that you would expect it to, still just about worked out for Chachi.
Yeah, we did see Shibi trotting around, prancing in victory, and some broken faces on the side of ROCCAT on your screens. But I think for ROCCAT, what a massive improvement from week 1 to week 2. I think a lot of teams will have to keep their eye on ROCCAT going forward, because unlike Spring, where you sort of went, I don't really feel they're a threat a lot of the time, yesterday and today, They pushed the #1 team from Spring. They pushed the #2 team from Spring. Some of the hardest games they've had. And I think there is, the question that we have on Twitter is who's the most underrated team. Somebody's not saying ROCCAT. I think there are some mistakes.
Very true, but there are still little creases to iron out. But for the Unicorns, this was a very tough game for themselves as well, because this really was, can they hang on without PowerOfEvil being a monster? We've seen them have the answer of yes to that before, but this one was on his favorite champion, on Kog'Maw. And yes, they can hang on. And yes, they can be tenacious. Man, I mean, PowerOfEvil, I'd love to see exactly how much damage he did, and I'm actually going to take a look at that.
Pretty good, but it's even. 47k to 28k of Vardags. But if you look at the team comp, I really want to highlight as well Hylissang. Alistair gone, Morgana gone, Lulu gone. You can argue where that was going to go. And for a player like Hylissang, who's had one of the most limited champion pools, he's still finding an impact. And that is something that's very impressive to me. We'll see if that can continue. The Nocturne, I'm on the fence. It was fun to watch. Don't really know how well it worked out and if that's a one and done type of pick.
Again, it's the Unicorns always just having something in their back pocket. Is it like the Shackle where they can bring it out again? Are they just going to put that one back in the box and not really play it at all? But, I still feel like there are consistency issues in the Unicorns that we didn't really see crop up against Fnatic. They look very solid, but Unicorns now back in summer, they're playing this standard style, but they're not making games easy on themselves because of it.
No, definitely not. 2-0 on the week for Unicorns of Love. Last week they went 1-1. I even said to PowerOfEvil, this up and down style, how do you go about fixing it? And I don't know if they can, but one thing that is good for them, playing from behind, it's something that you seldom get to experience in other environments. So a lot of praise to Unicorns there. And then for ROCCAT, just a lot of places to go back and say, what could we have done there to close out? What could we have done there to get another tower? So great learning experiences for both of these teams. And at the end of the day, ROCCAT's still at the bottom half of the table and UOL now shooting up to the top.
And that's the problem is, from looking at it, from their problems that have fixed, Jankos doing better, Woolite doing better as well for the most part. Yes, he got a little bit caught out towards the end of the game, but ROCCAT had improved. Again, underrated perhaps.
Yeah, I definitely think so. So for a final word, we're going to throw it over to the analyst desk with a